Hello, my fellow YouTubers. It is I, your beloved Duddits and I'm going to be bringing you my cubic deck profile for the post duel overload. Me and the other cubic players have been waiting this new support that is going to make this deck so much better and twice as consistent. And I am here to finally show it off. So, without further ado, let's get on with the deck profile. Starting our profile off, we're running 3 copies of our boy Duza, the Meteor Cubic Vessel. This is one of our play starters. His effect is, when he is normal or special summoned, you can send 1 cubic card from your deck to the graveyard. It is not a once per turn. And then he has an additional ability that when another cubic card is sent to the graveyard, he gains 200 attack for monsters with different names in the graveyard. He's very important to get your spells off. Next up, we're running the seed that makes this deck very good. Vijam, the cubic seed. He cannot be destroyed by battle, and at the end of the damage step, if a monster attacked it, he gets put into the spell zone, and the monster that attacked him now gets a cubic counter onto him, meaning it cannot activate its effects, nor can it attack. This card is better in the graveyard off of a spell card that I will get to later. Now, the card that everybody absolutely hates in this deck, I present to you our Lord and Savior, Crimson Nova, the big beefy boy. This card is absolutely amazing. Not only is he a 3,000 attack, but he is unaffected by all monsters' activated effects with 3,000 attack or less. And when he destroys a monster by battle, he gets a second additional attack. And at the end of the damage step, you burn for 3,000. Both players burn for 3,000, excuse me. And not only that, his summoning ability is not a once per turn, so you can get out as many as you want, as long as you have the 3 cubic cards in your hand to reveal with different names. Next up to the last supports for the cubic monsters, we run 1 copy of Buster Gundel, the cubic behemoth, and 1 Garagael, the cubic king. Buster Gundel, he can only be summoned by removing from the field 3 cubic cards. Well, 3 cubic monsters. It's been a while since I've actually been able to summon him off. So, when you send him to the graveyard, he gains 3,000 attack with 3 attacks. And then when he's sent from the field to the graveyard, you get to summon back all 3 of those cubic monsters that you sent away. Meaning, you send away those 3 Vijam, they come right back when he leaves the field. Buster Gundel, or Garagael, my bad, Garagael, you can summon him by tributing 1 cubic monster on the field. He gains 800 attack, your opponent burns for 800 attack, and then when he leaves the field, you get a cubic card back from the graveyard that was sent there for his summoning. Next up, for other random supports, we're running 2 copies of Forehead Beam and Bathwater. Not a whole lot to say about it. She's just out there to get that premium cash. Then we have our 2 other supporting acts, Summoner Monks. This card, whenever he's summoned, you can pitch a spell card from your hand, and then he gets put to defense position. And then you can special summon a level 4 or lower monster from your deck to the field, meaning you can go summon, pitch, special summon out your Duza, pitch another card to the grave, and there's everything that helps it get started. For the last little bit of our monster, this is a nice little spicy tech, Speed Burst Dragon. When you take effect damage, you can special summon this card from your hand, and then you burn your opponent for that damage that you took, and then gain life points equal to half of it. Very spicy card for this deck, just more life gaining. Onto our spells. For the brand new support that just came out of Duel Overload, triple copies of Cubic Dharma. Now, this is a new card, so not a lot of people know what this does. So, you take no battle damage from attacks involving your cubic monsters. You can only use each of the following effects of Cubic Dharma once per turn during your main phase. So, you can send 1 cubic card from your hand to the graveyard, and if you do, you get to draw 1 card. Just 1 card. And then, you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target 1 cubic monster in your graveyard, add it to your hand. So it's really nice recursion and draw power. So that's really nice for cubics because it helps us get into our other things. same thing with recurring our cubic monsters from the graveyard. Then we have triple copies of You Get What You Fucking Deserve Cubic Karma. This card, its first effect states that when this card is activated, you can target one cubic monster you control, except Vijam the Cubic Seed. Send any number of Vijam the Cubic Seeds from your hand and or deck to the graveyard. Then, the monster gains 800 attack for each, even if this card leaves the field. During your opponent's turn, if Vijam the Cubic Seed is special summoned by the effect of a cubic monster, send this card to the graveyard, and if you do, have your opponent's life points. You can banish this card from your graveyard and add one cubic monster from your deck to your hand. This is not a once per turn effect, so you can send as many copies of this card to the graveyard as you like to pull whatever you need from the deck. Mainly it's going to be your Crimson Nova, because he is what you want. Then we have 3 copies of Foolish Burial Goods to send our cubic karmas from our deck to the grave, so we can start our stuff off. This is a very helpful card for this deck. Moving on, we have 3 copies of Called by the Grave, because with this, we don't want to see Forehead Beam hitting us, so we can't search our pieces that we need for this deck. So this is good to stop that and any other hand traps, or just to get stuff out of your opponent's graveyard. Then we're running my honest opinion, the budget Pot of Extravagance without a hefty cost. So with this card, you can send 3 cards from your hand to the graveyard. Then you draw cards equal to the cards you sent to the graveyard. But if you don't special summon, and then if you did not special summon by the effect of this card, you lose 1,000 life points for each card in your hand. So it's pretty much a pendulum. It's for Performable Pals, so we don't really have Performable Pals obviously in this deck. We just use it for the draw. So you're gonna lose some life points, but that's fine. It's perfect for the draw. And it works well with the Speed Burst Dragon combo. Next, for the last bit of spells, we're running 2 copies of Cubic Wave. For those of you that don't know, you can target one cubic monster you control and one face-up monster your opponent controls. The attack of that monster you control becomes double its current attack, and if it does, the attack of the monster your opponent controls becomes half its current attack. You can banish this card and any number of cubic monsters from your graveyard. Then target one face-up monster your opponent controls equal to the number of those banished cubic monsters and place 1 cubic counter on each of them. Monsters with cubic counters cannot attack, also negate their effects. So we're only running 2 copies of this Cubic Wave for the simple fact that it's not the most important piece in the deck, which being the most important piece in this deck is our Karma. Onto our traps. 3 of the brand new card, Cubic Ascension. So this card, when an opponent monster declares an attack, you can special summon 1 Vijam the Cubic Seed from your deck, and if you do, change the attack target to it, and perform damage calculation. Then, if your opponent's life points are at least 2,000 higher than yours, you can banish this card from your graveyard, special summon 1 Vijam the Cubic Seed from your hand, deck, or graveyard. Then, if only your opponent controlled a monster when this effect was activated, you can special summon 2 more Vijam the Cubic Seeds. You can only use each effect of Cubic Ascension once per turn. So essentially, this card right here makes it easier for us to get out our Vijams. It makes it easier for us to pull off our Buster Gundel, or not Buster, but Buster Gundel, the Cubic Behemoth effect to come out of the grip, to come out and get that triple attack. It just works well with this deck. I personally have not been able to get the secondary effect of this to go off, but the first effect of it, to summon a Vijam from the deck, to change the attack target to it, is very live, especially if you have like a really weak monster on the board for some reason and you can only get out your Duza. So there's that. Then we're running 2 copies of Cubic Causality. What this card does is distribute a number of cubic counters on face-up monsters your opponent controls up to the number of cubic monsters that you control. And obviously, whenever cubic counters, they can't attack, they can't activate their effects. And so then you could banish this card from your graveyard. Then you can target 1 cubic monster you control this turn. Each time it destroys a monster by battle and has a cubic counter, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the original attack of that destroyed monster. And then you can only use each effect of Cubic Causality once per turn. So this sets up your flip over, add out counters on monsters, and then banish it and just do damage. This deck is just helping you do more damage than what you can already do. Then the last step for the traps, we have one copy of Unification of the Cubic Lords and one Solemn Strike. So I'll explain Unification because it's technically our fusion card for cubics. So you can fusion summon one cubic fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as fusion material. If a face-up cubic monster is destroyed by battle and leaves the field, you can banish this card from your graveyard. Special summon one level 4 or lower cubic monster from your hand or deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. The only two that we have in our deck that we would really want to go after is our Giragael and our Buster Gundel, because you can ignore their summoning conditions, special summon, and defense. Only one of them. But that's what Unification is. It's honestly really, really hard to pull off the fusion aspect of this because it's impossible to pull out. I'll go over that when I get to it. And then obviously everybody knows what Solemn Strike does. But that's it for the main deck. We have a small little, I guess it's not really a small little extra deck, but it's an extra deck. We run one Baguska because if we need be, for some reason we can only end on 2 level 4s and just stall out your opponent for like the 2 turns. One copy of number 27 Dreadnought Dreadnought. So he takes 2+ level 4 monsters at the end of the battle phase. If this card destroyed an opponent's monster by battle, you can special summon from your extra deck one rank 10 or higher Machine Xyz monster by using this face-up card you control as a material. This is treated as an Xyz summon. Transfers material to the summoned monsters. You can only use each effect of number 27. If this face-up card on the field would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can detach one material from this card instead. So I'll explain the rank 10 that we use because it's really nice because this is all about burn. Gaga Cowboy, just for that 800 burn win, or 800 burn for time. Castel to bounce stuff back on the field. Duggarez, the Timeless. This is really nice just for the drawing aspect for cubics. I don't need the double attack. Abyss Dweller to shut out Graves. Silent Honor Arc to target a special summon monster your opponent controls in face of attack position and attach it to this card as material. So stealing stuff. And then we have our rank 10, the Rail Cannon Gustav Maxed for additional burn damage because, yeah, that's what we like to do. We like to burn. That's the idea of cubics. Punch and burn per game. And then our boy, Crimson Nova Trinity, the Dark Cubic Lord. So, he takes 3 Crimson Nova, the Dark Cubic Lords. Must be fusion summoned with the above fusion materials and cannot be special summoned by other ways. It cannot be targeted or destroyed by your opponent's card effects. When this card declares an attack, have your opponent's life points. When this card destroys a monster by battle, you can activate this effect. This card can make a second attack during the battle phase if you take effect damage, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the damage you took. So this card essentially is just overkill, but it's almost impossible to get into. And then our last but not least, one little underclock taker for our link. But that wraps it up for our cubic deck profile. It's a really fun deck to throw people off because a lot of people just don't expect you to be playing this, and it's kind of hard to get over our boy Crimson Nova unless you get hit with a Solemn Strike or anything like those. But yeah. So as always, leave a like and subscribe to my channel for further updates on deck profiles and any other content. And wash your fucking hands, you dirty animals.